talk, we have Professor Sundaravalli to speak on Golden Crossroads, India's evolving role in the global gold trade. Please, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasant evening for meeting all of you, and we have been bombarded with so many number of sessions, and I don't know, at the end of the 3-day, I don't know how I am going to keep you excited, but nevertheless I have some of my PGP students and some of the AFP students who have just come in because I am there, I think so. So I know that they do not know much about the gold business, so let me try to walk you through. Some of the industry people may find it a little how I should say, a little less informative, but I presume others would enjoy that. Let me walk you through this. Now this the title of this talk is Golden Crossroads. India is at a golden crossroads, and we are going to talk about India's role in the global gold trade. And as you know, I took up this chair position of IGPC just a year ago. It's a little more than a year. So my awareness or my interest in this gold industry, not as a consumer, but as a researcher and as a professional, it is less than a year, a little more than a year I can say. But I have fallen head over heels in love with the gold business sector. And as you can understand, earlier I was interest was only from a consumer as an ornament perspective, and I am a connoisseur of gold ornaments even earlier. And today also I continue to be so. And yeah. One of the missions when I started was, I keep saying this, my mission is to make India as the gold capital of the world. That's the first thing when I first learnt it, that's a mission that I wanted to take it up. And why not? That was my question. On an every year demand, our demands is slightly less than China's demand. As you can understand, annual demand for the country, annual demand for gold in the country is some 800 tons, almost averaging on 800 tons. China is slightly more. So that is the first part. And the second part is in terms of the statistics. Just a while ago, Ashok Gautam said it. India's holding of gold is something like 25,000 tons, which is the unstated number. Number of statistics are there, some people say 30,000, 25,000, whatever it is. It's 25,000 tons. Where does this 25,000 tons come from? Where does this number come from? This number comes not from the historic or the ancient grandmother's time. Once they started understanding the numbers of volumes of traded things, that is 25,000 times. So I am not even including the temple gold or your grandmother gold, which is all there still in the households. I am not even considering that. What is accounted is 25,000. So you can imagine how much it is there, because gold is one commodity that we don't dispose at all. Gold is one, so I am not even including temple gold. I am not even including temple. 25,000 is the current holding. And some of you, if you must have heard Mr. Gurumurthy yesterday, that is a paper that I worked on with the data also, and most of us have not come out of that Gurumurthy talk, and it will take another 5-10 years for us to come out of the talk. So one of the things that Mr. Gurumurthy said was this 25,000 tons. He was talking about per capita income in US versus India. Per capita holding of gold with per capita income of US versus India. How do you take the per capita income? You look at what is the current gold reserves in the central banks. Okay, in US, holding personal gold is discouraged. Individuals do not hold gold. Everything is with the central bank. Okay, this central bank holding of reserves divided by the citizens gives you the per capita income, right? So that is not actually their individual income. Whereas when we look at the per capita income definition, again we do it by the same thing. Our central bank reserves divided by the total population is the per capita income. So we appear to be smaller, but actually what they call as per capita income is not per capita income, it is the government, it is not yours. But whereas what they say as per capita income here is again a skewed figure, because it does not include what actually I am holding, right? It is not about you and me. Most of us are from the upper middle class societies. We are all a little bit upper middle class or middle class, and I am excluding Savji Bhai and all. So no, I am excluding them. They are in the somewhere else. Okay, so I am excluding them. So others, when we say, we are all in the middle class or the upper middle class or lower middle class, somewhere we can say. But even when you are going to look at somebody who is from the socially economic backward or below forward and on the downward scale, even they would be having some amount of gold which is not accounted. So we say that informal gold in the country is too high. This 25,000 tons is what is the formal gold that we know, and that also is the number is skewed. And now if I am going to bring that informal gold which is not there in the books, just imagine what could be the per capita income. हमारे घर में हमारा नौकर चाकर है, हमारा ड्राइवर्स है, उनके पास गोल्ड नहीं है क्या? कम से कम 4 ग्राम का गोल्ड तो रहेगा किसी का मंगलसूत्र में, वो हम कभी बाहर नहीं आती है. सपोज वो भी बाहर आए तो हमारा per capita income somewhere up, right? And उसका credit score would be somewhere up. But when your नौकर चाकर is going to go for a loan or something like that, you look at what is his current holding, and that also after this Jan Dhan Yojana, etc., after the JAM Trinity, you are able to understand the his credit worthiness. Even in that, his gold holding, he never understand that. So our per capita income or our credit worthiness is much negatively biased. Our GDP is negatively biased compared to what is there in the Western countries. So this is one thing that we strongly, fundamentally, we are all strongly feel strongly about it, and we try to bring it out using our research and our findings, how to bring ourselves out of this. This is one endeavor that we are all together in this mission, and whoever you have seen as our friends, we are all very common in these thought processes. Number one. Second thing, now, I'm sorry, I did not even go to the first slide. So this is going to be my agenda of this. So my demand, I know, demand is 800 tons, and then I have to find out what are all the sourcing part of this gold. What are all the sourcing part? 800 tons. 800 tons of gold every year mujhe chahiye. The country needs. Where does this 800 ton come from? So I have to go back to find out what are all the resources of gold. The resources of gold is typically, first is mining, the second is recycling. These are the two things, and mining, recycling, and some extent we import, right? Imports and exports. These are the ways in which gold supply chain moves. This is completely a class on supply chain management, whereas I am just cutting down the nitty-gritties of this. I am just looking at the broader aspects of my resource as well as the demand part. So these are the things that we are going to look at. So physical demand, constraints, why we are dependent on imports, and what exactly is the policy briefings or the policy guidelines that we want to state here. Now here, as I told you, our demand has consistently stayed somewhere at 700 to 800 tons overall, except for a brief year during the COVID time. There was a slight dip, but apart from that, we always consistently stay in the 700-800 tons per year. Okay, so and so in this demand of 800 tons, let me give you some more details so that you are able to appreciate where exactly where we are coming from and what exactly is the proposed solutions or something that we are talking about. And I also talk about perhaps what is the gap in what Mr. Gurumurthy has been saying. Now this 800 tons of gold is here. In this, when I am going to look at what is India and what is the rest of the country, our typical ratio of demand would be like 75 is to 25. 75 would be for jewelry. Jewelry means we call it as an ornament. The 25% would be for investment, coin or gold, coin or bar, which is typically for investments or other industrial purposes. So our proportion would be 75-25, and whereas in the rest of the world it would be something like 60-40 or 65-35. So that averages around. And now when you look at gold investments, digital golds, our investments in terms of gold ETFs has been consistently increasing, and this is the data as latest as October 2024, we are slightly more than 40,000 crores of Indian rupees in terms of gold ETFs, in terms of gold ETFs. I have a slight difficulty in this. We have got it as Indian ETFs in gold. One thing that we must understand here, whenever I try to work on research, I always try to look at, this is not a physical gold, so perhaps it may not be applicable. When you talk about physical gold, I would like to look at what is the volume and what is the value. Here in terms of value, today it is 40,000 crores, but when I want to convert this, or when I try to look at the equivalent tonnage of gold, tonnage of physical gold, the tonnage of physical gold that can be there in 2011 at 10,000 crores and the tonnage of gold which is there in October 2024 at 40,000 may perhaps be the same. This is one biggest difficulty I have. I will also rationalize why this difficulty comes from. This, as you can understand, this difficulty comes from two things. One is the rising gold prices. The second is the depreciating currency value. So many times I often, when I do my research work, I often try to compare this with the physical gold. Without the physical quantity, I wouldn't like to just look at the numbers and make some interpretations, right? So this is something that we have to keep at the corner of our mind when we proceed further. The next part is when you are looking at the gold monetization scheme, GMS scheme, as you can understand. Again, this has seen a consistent increase. This consistent increase has been there in terms of years. I am saying in terms of quantity of gold, short term gold deposit, medium term gold deposit, long term gold deposit, etc., etc. As you can understand, long term gold deposit is one wherein people are willing to give away this gold for a longer period of time, expecting a higher return, and the number of depositors also is consistently increasing, which means the awareness of digital gold for investment schemes is increasing. That is the one interpretation that we can make, and people are more trusting about the digital gold deposits. That's something that we can interpret from this. This is from the Ministry of Finance annual reports. Now I said 800 tons. Where does this 800 ton come from? Okay, this 800 ton can come from scrap gold. India's gold production as a percentage of total supply. It can come from scrap or it can come from sources which are other than scrap. I will get into the details a little later. And similarly, gold production in terms of the total demand, when this total demand is more important for me because I have been harping about the 800 tons. This of the 800 tons, around less than 15% come from scrap, and sources other than scrap, again it is less than 1.52%, around 10%. Meaning scrap means what? Anything which is any jewelry gold or anything which is petty scrap, that is a scrap. So other than scrap I am getting it as only 2%. So the larger question that I have is, where do I get that 98% filled from? The demand of 800 tons, only 2% is getting filled by sources other than scrap, and this also scrap is around 15%. So even if I am going to take it as 15% plus 2%, if I am going to take 17% only I am filling it. So roughly 20% only I am managing this. 80% I have to answer. 80% of this 800 demand, where do I get it from? So there lies the problem here. Now again let me tell you the further importance of this. Now 2% and 15%, let us keep this number in the head. What is mining in India? When you look at mining in India, from the mining I get only around 1.5 tons on an average every year. Around 1.5 tons is the average tonnage capacity of mining. So again the internal sourcing of gold in India is very little, very little. So that's another observation. Now let me look at the other part. Why can't I do more? I am doing only how much is said? We said 1.5%. Why can't I do more mining? Mining is a very expensive business, cost intensive. Mining is not easy. We know about coal mining, we know how much cost intensive it is. Gold mining is not similar to this, at least 20-30 times harder than coal mining. Why so? One is that the reserves for gold in India stands something like 93% ton is the actual reserves I have. In that reserves 93 tons of gold also, the feasible tons is only 17%. In that 17-ton feasibility of gold, feasibility of mining the gold also, the inferred is, so when I am going to look at the remaining sources of that, roughly 500 tons will, it will be 500 tons. Out of this also inferred will be 200 tons, meaning the confidence level with which I can mine these 17 tons from the 92 tons is 50%, right. So, making a mine itself is an expensive business, and I am anticipating that there is a gold reserve and I am going to do for the mining part, and when I do that, the confidence level at which I can hit gold is 50%. And you can also understand the environmental social impact of all these things. Do I want to do it? How expensive is it? Do I want to do that is a question. So, the confidence level which I can generate gold out of this mines is very limited. So, that is the next part here. This is what I am going to say this. So, gold mining, there are roadblocks, regulatory challenges are there, taxation policies is there, and approval process is very difficult. And so, mining is one area where the locations are all remote, either poorly developed infrastructure, and it is a very, very cost intensive operation. So, do I have anything else? Do I have any other solutions? Here I am mentioning here gold mine streaming, metal streaming agreements with Russia and CIS countries. Do I have any other options other than mining gold? Because mining gold in India is cost intensive and the possibilities of getting a good gold reserve is very limited. And this particular last point, I am going to leave it for the end. I will come back to this. Russia and CIS countries in a little towards the end of my slides. So, the next part. So, what do we do? If mining is not there, how do I get that 800 tons? So far in all these 3 years, we refine. We import raw gold, which we call as a Dore gold, and this Dore gold is refined. So, when you get refining also has got lots and lots of issues in refined gold. Refining is a process which is done with the raw gold, and in the raw gold there are several duty differentials. We found out lots of discrepancies in the trade data in our last few months of research. So, in this what happens is, there is GST, there is a couple of legal taxation export import regulations, and when you want to have a refinery, as per global standards only LBMA accredited refineries can operate. Only one MMTC has obtained this LBMA accreditation. Our goal is not hallmarked for good quality standardization. So, the standardization and the hallmarking is a big problem in our country. So, we do not have the certification of hallmark jewelry. So, that is hallmark gold. That is another problem. So, this before 2020 domestic exchanges did not accept the non-LBMA accredited gold refiners, and after this 2020 we developed this India Gold Delivery Standards, which is what was talked about in the previous 2 days. So, banks which are major users of gold cannot trade on the exchange to obtain the gold refined by the domestic refiners. Even if I have a domestic refiners, I will not be able to purchase from them unless they are certified by LBMA. LBMA accreditation is important. LBMA accreditation standards are too stringent. Only MMTX has been able to do that. So, this again has a problem. So, refining has a problem. The next thing that we saw is absence of infrastructure. Gold refiners has got a problem. There are infrastructure related regulatory issues. If the gold is recycled in the unorganized sector and rerouted to refineries, it would help in capacity utilization and it can address the fraudulent trade. So, we are suggesting some ways to improve this gold refining. We are trying to look at refiners whether they can benefit from the overseas joint ventures, and whether banks are able to meet the gold requirements for the gold traded on exchange, like just now IABX Ashok Gautam was saying. So, some of these opportunities, now when you look at refinery, UAE is one country that I would like to talk about. UAE has got actually nothing. There is neither gold reserve, there is nor gold demand. The only thing that they do is they import raw gold from other countries. They are a kind of a mediator. They are able to have good quality refineries which are trusted, and UAE Dubai exchange, we are able to buy that. Just because they are a mediation, we are giving business and trade to UAE, which is sometimes we think which is inappropriate, right? Why can't we have those refineries within us? Why do we want to have UAE to benefit from us? We do not know. Anyway, Sudesh is not there, so I can talk in confidence, but even when he is there, Sudesh is from Dubai, he was here. So when Sudesh is here, we tell him, we are unnecessarily giving you money, right? So we are unnecessary, we believe that there is an opportunity for us to grab all those refineries to India, and we should be able to do that business ourselves. Now that is about the refinery part. Now bullion and gold trade. Now in FY 23-24 we imported 794 tons, out of which 70% come from 5 countries, and 50% of the import came from just 2 countries, Switzerland and UAE. Why do you want to give this? Why do you want to give this 25%, 35% is another question here. So Switzerland again has got only refineries, UAE has got refineries. Now new suppliers to India over the past few years are Guinea and third largest country and all those things. Peru, Bolivia have steadily increased their exports. Peru was the 10th largest in 2014, but it is the 4th. Bolivia was the top 10 and now it is the 7th. And in the last 5 years, gold dairy imports have made from 30% of the total official gold imports, and among the 10 sources of among the top 10 sources are the 3 LDCs, which are least developed countries. What am I trying to communicate here? We are importing net. I don't have mining, I am not doing refinery, okay. The only way in which I get my 800 ton gold is from import, period. So the next question comes in, where do I import it from? Where do I import it from? All these LDCs. Have you heard this country Peru? Have you heard this country Bolivia? Have you heard this country Tanzania? All these Guinea, they don't do anything other than exporting gold to us. Some of them have gold reserves or gold mines are there. Some of them are just a mediator where they get gold from elsewhere and they are able to do that. It is not, actually all these things are all traded when a country, when they are importing gold from elsewhere and when they are exporting gold to any other country, everything should be earmarked. How much quantity of gold they are importing from somewhere, how much they are exporting, that has to be very clearly specified. Otherwise, that kind of a thing it's there only, we call it as a responsible gold. There are delivery standards, there are trade standards which countries cannot violate. Now, this one will give you an idea about what we are talking about. Now, 35% has come from Switzerland, and here this one from United Arab Emirates I got 15%. Rest you can see all the small countries are there. All the other countries, how bullion and gold import has come to a country in the previous year. In the next part when I am saying, again this doré and bullion. Doré is raw gold, bullion is the refined gold. Now as you can see, much of our gold imports are bullion and not doré, meaning that even the refining that we give to outside. What do you mean? The value add we are not doing, the value add is done by somebody else. So this is what is said by this here. And this slide is one important thing. This is my favorite one. From here, some of these slides are my favorite ones. Now, when you talk to our Vitt Mantri Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman ji, every time she keeps on talking about current account deficit, and the current account deficit, most of the things come from oil. Okay, don't say gold. Okay, just because you are here, you don't have to say gold everything. So most of the things come from oil, and some amount of current account deficit also comes from gold. So we are bothered about gold. So when you look at things here, this is the current account, this is the merchandise export, and this is the merchandise import. What do you interpret out of this? What do you interpret out of this? Huh? What do you interpret out of this slide? This is between the years 1999 and 2000. If Nirmala Sitharaman ji looks at this slide, huh? Imports are going up. Current account deficit is? Huh. What do you interpret this? What do you want to interpret from this?
Exports are rising at a faster rate as compared to exports.
Huh?
The current account goes down when the merchandise import is less.
Current account is in deficit. Current account is in surplus. Current account is in surplus when your imports are lesser and when your exports are higher. Right? Simple. Current account is in surplus when your exports are more than import. Current account is in deficit when your imports is more than exports. So, does it not tell you in common sense, why do you if you want your current account not to be in deficit, what should you be doing? Export more, export more. Import less you can do in oil but not in gold, because we have the women force, we have the requirements. If what I need is 800 demands, I am not going to set down my demand. So, one way is that we have been keeping saying this in some of our policy briefs, increase your export. 800 is constant. Even during COVID, when the entire world was struggling, we imported 500 to 600 tons. So, you can't mess around with my gold imports, I need it. So, the only way in which you can manage your current account is promote export. Promote export. What to export? That is fine. That is fine. Import will remain the same, but export more.
What about my demand is 800 tons? If I export more,
Demand is not going, what I am going to export, we will see that. Export is by and large jewelry, finished jewelry. Can I increase the finished jewelry? Can I increase the finished jewelry? Can I have a brand India? Can I market the brand India jewelry? Can I increase whatever is the world is requiring? And we also speak about Make in India in multiple things. And we give the refining also to outsiders. When you are talking about Make in India, why don't you do the refining and multiple levels of supply chain within India, and why don't you increase the trade value and trade volume of the export, so that your current account is in control with respect to gold, period. Right? So, this is what we are trying to communicate from this. So, again, when you that is the overall picture. This is about the gold. When you look at the gold with respect to mainly about gold, again the current account was in surplus with respect to gold in sometime around 2004 and sometimes around 2021. I think if you remember one of the quarters, Nirmala Sitharaman ma'am was saying our current account was in surplus, and we genuinely think that the role of gold in current account deficit is much lesser than the gold one, than the oil. So, this is one thing that we will say. And the next part is about the gold jewelry exports. The gold jewelry exports, when you look at this 2014-2024, there has been some kind of a, this is gems and jewelry and this is gold jewelry. When it comes to gems and jewelry, there has been almost an averaging, it stays stable except for a brief time during the mid-COVID period. This is gems and jewelry, this is pure gold jewelry, and the pure gold jewelry is seeing some kind of an increase, but this is how the export and continued enthusiasm for gold and gems jewelry in terms of export. The next is jewelry exports from India. We think that this is an untapped opportunity, and we are exporting only 9% of the total export, that is, which is US dollars $1900 billion, and this is the around US dollar 169 billions were exported between 2019 to 2024, of which only 9% is India's. So, we think that there is a considerable opportunity for India to increase the jewelry export to foreign countries. So, that is something that we make here, and so there is a weak demand for gems and jewelry. Majority of India's gold and jewelry go to again 5 countries, US, UAE, Hong Kong especially, and in UK exports rose to Indian rupees 15 million, and this is one thing. Indian gold jewelry enjoys sustained interest in offshore markets, but we think we have not tapped it enough, and right now Kalyan Jewellers and Titans have plans to, I think they have already, and Malabar Gold, if I had to say, recently again I met up with them, I meet with them quite often. Malabar Gold is considered as is right now, as per the business volume, they are the 5th largest jeweler in the world. in the world. In the world, they are the 5th largest world. The volume in which they are trading is 5th largest. So we can boast about something. So the breakup of India's gold and jewelry export, when you look at this, so the rupees in million, how much we go to US, how much it goes to UAE, etc. So as you can see, maximum goes to US, then it goes to UAE, Hong Kong, Belgium and Israel. So that is the thing that we have. Then what are all the roadblocks to exporting Indian jewelry? When you look at Indian export jewelry, some of the things that we majorly say about lack of certification. As I told you, Indian jewelry, we do not have this hallmarking and the benchmarking. This hallmarking tells you what is the quality and purity standards are not very trustworthy. That is one problem area. So jewelers, big and small, should subscribe to hallmarking standards, that's been you are saying. And again, the industry is dominated by small and medium sized players, and around 15 to 20% are unorganized karigars. So there is no support for them, there is no working conditions are poor, trustworthiness and credentials are poorly placed. That is one thing that we say. So the next part is, when jewelers want to operate, where do they get the financing from? That part is again missing. Most of the small jewelers find it difficult to find this financing, and that also has a problem in the maintaining the inventory. Because you know, if you are a karigar, if you are going to buy gold and if you are going to make jewelry, how do you account for the inventory that you are holding? If the inventory is sold, you get some money. If the inventory is not sold, that money is held up, that capital is held up in the gold. So that is something a small jeweler cannot handle this. So when you look at the gems and jewelry credit, one in the entire banking sector or in the formal financial institutions, only 2.5% is with jewelry. So you can understand the entire jewelry industry does not rely on formal banking sector for finance. So you can understand how much of inefficiency would be there and how much of opaqueness is the trade. The trade is very opaque. You do not know where the jeweler gets his money from, how he is operating, where he is holding his inventory, where he is spending his inventory, we do not know. Only 2.5% in the entire banking sector, 2.5% is with the jewelry industry. So there are several policy measures that the government is trying to take. There was common facilitation center was opened in Mumbai. I do not know the impact or how exactly it is. Uttar Pradesh government is trying to promote a jewelry hub, and India is trying to position itself in the same way as Belgium for diamonds. So there are certain things that the government is trying to do, which Hazubai may want to add something. So in certain things government is trying to have some policies, but we do not know how exactly is the impact. Some of the big players are able to manage well, smaller players find it too difficult, right. So that is something that is very well known. Now before I come to this conclusion part, there are a few things that we have to say. One is that demand is consistent, you can't manage the demand. The only way in which you can do is promote manufacturing and export, increase the export. And for any effort of monetization or investment in paper gold to be successful, we want the change in the consumption strength to be the lowest income. Actually, when you look at the demand pattern also, the highest volume of gold is purchased by the people who are at the low income category. So there is a significant levels of working with the low income category people. There are resource constraints in mining. In this mining, there is some part which is not come up well. Now I am going to explain this. So to manage the current account deficit, what did we say? One is, we said promote exports, promote export. So can I curtail import? Can I curtail import? If I have to manage the current account deficit, one is to promote import, promote exports, finished good jewelry. Can I curtail import? One of the things that we try to do is, and in fact this is a paper that we are working and perhaps we have not come up to the stage of publishing it or little ahead. See, when we look at, as I told you, mining gold is a very expensive business and all the countries do that. When all the countries do that, some of the lowest cost of mining happens in countries like Russia. Okay. So my contention is these days, again I also talked about the currency fluctuations. Okay. Can we come out of this trap of currency fluctuations? Now as you know, the government is going in a big time in de-dollarization. We do not trade anymore in dollars. We have started trading in the local currencies, and that too the the game changer move that our Modi Sarkar or the current Sarkar did was with terms of oil exports to Russia. When US sanctioned Russia, when US imposed sanctions on Russia, what we did was we imported oil from Russia in local currency, and then the amount of currencies of rupees that was held in Russia became very high, and Russia did not have enough avenues for spending that rupees, right. So what we did was, for that rupees we exported our defense. So we started trading with Russia in local currency, and when Russia has Russia has impositions by the Americans, there was no partner for Russia. So we are trying to say, why can't we do something similar in gold mining as well? We are saying, Russia, there are enough gold mines, cost of mining is very low. We say just lease out some mines in Russia, and produce gold from there, and this gold would be make in India gold. Make in India gold from the Russian side, from the Russian soil, from Russia, we will mine gold, and this gold is for our gold. And for that, for the leasing charges, we can pay Russia whatever we want. Either you exchange in local currency or you pay in terms of gold, whatever is appropriate, right? Whatever is appropriate. This is being done something very similar in agriculture. People have done leasing land in other countries where you are going to use their work for us. So this is something that we are trying to propose as a concept paper with our ministries. So that this gold will be our gold. This gold will be our gold. So we will not be dependent on other countries for our imports. At least even in that 800 tons, if I am going to cut down on 20%, 30%, 40%, well enough for me. Good enough for me. So this is the next thing that we are trying to propose. We are trying to concretize our idea. So this is something that we are saying. So that gold part, importing also, we want to address this. And the next part is that again, this is a paper that Anumeha and I worked, and again I talked about we talked about import export trade fluctuations. When you look at recently, I am taking some more time, Ilma, will you allow me? Okay. So recently the import tax was significantly reduced from 15% to 5%. The government always worries about, the government wants to, how does the government deal with this? Government wants to control imports, so that they want to manage current account deficit. So they want to control imports. What do? What does the government typically do otherwise? What tariffs? They increase the tariff. When they increase the tariff, people start smuggling. Even when they reduce the smuggle, even when they make it zero also, smugglers will smuggle. That is my argument. So when they increase the tariff, people start smuggling. When you reduce the tariff, still smugglers will smuggle, but nevertheless that 800 tons is required for me. Whether you reduce or not, it's immaterial. When you look at China, so what happens is, if the government reduces the tariff or increases tariff, what typically traders do is, they find out some countries where there are trade concessions, tariff concessions. For example, for least developed countries, the taxes are less. For UAE, there is a CEPA agreement, which allows you to import at a lower tax, at a lower tariff. So traders find out countries where I can import from. Suddenly you will see spikes of import from Tanzania. Where does it come from? Because it's a least developed country. So when you have tariff concession, when you have tariff waivers, traders try to utilize this opportunity, where I think this is a very failed argument. Because when you look at China, China has got no concessions. China has got no concession, nothing. For all the countries, the import and export is at 0%. You keep it 0%, traders let them do what they want to do. But what you must actually address is, control the import by means of mechanisms like leasing out mines from Russia or increasing your export. That's the only way for you to control the current account deficit, rather than managing and manipulating your import export tariffs. We think that's a failed argument, and just because your your external affairs, if you want to do diplomacy with another country, just because of tariff fluctuations, you will not be able to do that. This is our argument there. So this is something that we are trying to say. So tariff changes does not help you, and we want to increase the export, and this is one part that we are saying. And second thing that we are saying is lease out mines in Russia, or Laos also has got a very low mining cost. Wherever the mining cost is low, lease out the mines and do that. So these are some of the 2 or 3 things that we are trying to say, and I think that's all from my side. Thank you very much. Any questions, anybody? I'll be happy to take. Any questions from anyone? Why not? If there is a sanction on Russia, see when we are able to take oil from Russia, see for them also they need somebody, right? Everything in the world operates by supply demand mismatch. They also need somebody, and when I am going to give them a business volume of 800 tons per year, why not? We are working on it. I think I have to ask my people, Hanmaya, where is that? You know, so this is something that we are working upon, and we are trying to fill in those numbers, and you know, and in fact I have discussed all these things with at bits and pieces with Gurumurthy sir, and so whatever Gurumurthy sir was saying, again in that also, so now when I come back to my observations on what Mr. Gurumurthy was saying, see, he was trying to say that, you know, tax incentives for people to come and deposit, that could be a one-time initiative. One-time initiative, some good amount of gold will come. And do you think it is feasible? Do you think it is pragmatic? That's the first question that comes to me. Do you think it is pragmatic or feasible? Yes and no. Because this government is one government which is अनहोनी को भी होनी कर देते हैं, है ना, अनहोनी को भी होनी कर देते हैं तो कर सकते हैं. Is there a precedence? Yes, there is a precedence. Because good old days, if you remember, P. Chidambaram was one person who said if you declare that undisclosed income, there was some tax incentive which was earlier given. So similar to that, we can have a precedence of saying that whichever is the bar gold that a household has, if you are going to bring it to us, there could be some tax incentivization. So there is a possibility. But however, the limitation that it might have is, how long can I do it? Can I do it for ever and ever? Okay, can I do it for ever and ever? It may not be possible. Whereas my demand for gold is a consistent thing. Every year I will need that 800 tons. So the initiative or the policy suggestion, that policy recommendation that Gurumurthy sir was saying, it is possible maybe for 5 years, 10 years we can do that. But as a consistent effort, the only sure shot method for us to manage our current account with respect to gold is find out some good inexpensive sources for gold import, as well as increase our export. And to me, the solutions or the policy recommendations that we are proposing very much aligns with some of the schemes that the government has proposed. You keep on saying make in India. That's exactly what I am saying. Make in India, do it, let us do it, let us make in India, and let us make in India and let us export, let us have brand India, And similarly, when I am talking about importing gold, yes, I don't want to import gold, but I don't have resource. But what is the problem? I will lease out a big land, big mine, few mines in Russia, few mines in Laos. Who is not happy to partner with India? Everybody is. It just requires one hug from Modi ji and one handshake from Jaishankar Swaminathan, and we are done. So this is something that we are trying to propose, and this is something which is consistent. You know, Gurumurthy sir's thing is perhaps a one-time thing, and perhaps if you are going to do this movers and shakers, which Gurumurthy sir is also capable, which IIMA is also capable, we will try it out everywhere. Thank you very much. Thanks for listening.
I have to make one comment on
yes, sir.
lab grown. With lab grown, I think we are solving this problem, because when you see the natural diamond, we are importing raw material. Only India is doing a labor work, which is 10 to 15%,
right,
and then selling back to the Western countries. Where lab grown is 100% Indian product. There is nothing import is done which are like grown in India, but there is a 50% which are still importing from China. So on that, I think
meaning
India should see.
You and other jewelers, you are saying, or
no, all, yeah, everyone who is doing a lab grown, because lab grown is Indian product are grown, yeah. But there is a 50% is also importing from China, and there is a no duty on that.
Right.
Where other product is growing in India and there is no benefit. So I think also in that sector you should work something where local who are growing in India get some kind of benefit.
We will do that.
Thank you.
We will talk, you know. Anyway, you know, anyway, Brijesh is a good friend, and I've been always in touch with Brijesh, and we will see how we can.
I think we should work together on this. And it's
Absolutely, absolutely. Tell me one time, anyway, I'm coming, you know, I like your place, and I like to have a meal with Savji bhai.
मैम मेरा एक छोटा सा सवाल,
हाँ.
ये 25,000 टन कब तक चलता रहेगा मैम? ये हर साल हम 700-800 टन इंपोर्ट करते हैं, तो ये ऐड भी तो करते जाएं, उसमें कम से कम 8-10 साल का 10,000 टन हो गया होगा.
वो तो बराबर है, बात तो बराबर है. मुझे पता नहीं, सारे लोग 30,000 बोल रहे हैं, वर्ल्ड गोल्ड काउंसिल भी 30,000 बोल रहे हैं, तो मैं भी बोल रही हूँ, मैं कहाँ से जाके गिन लूँ? तो वो बात तो बराबर है. तो any other questions, anybody? Happy to take any questions. Shall I call it a bye? Thank you very much. Thanks for listening.